to my channel. I'm Rosa Maria. Today I have a wonderful tutorial and we're going to learn how to make this adorable clear vinyl drawstring bag. It's very simple to make. It's great for beginners, and also if you have any fabric scrap, you can use your fabric scrap to work on this project. And also this project don't take too long. You could take a good afternoon on a weekend to work on it. And also the clear vinyl here comes in different colors that you can also choose from. And also in the description box below, I included a list of materials that you're going to be needing, and also a link where you can buy the materials so you can just get started on this project. So let's get started on making this cute project. Materials you're going to be needing for this sewing project is, I have here a corded rope. This is 1/2 inch. Some fabric clips. And this is a double-sided sewing tape. A pair of scissors. Your rotary cutter. Your ruler. And this is a hot ruler, a coordinating thread, and this is called a bokken, a erasable marker pen for fabric. You can choose 3 different types of fabric for this project. I just selected just to use one fabric style because I just wanted to use the extra scrap that I had still left. And also some vinyl. This vinyl, I tried to pick the medium size. There's different types of thickness for the vinyls. So I choose here the medium, but you can choose a size that you prefer. The next step is to cut our supplies. The first one here is the corded rope that I have here. Make sure that you cut 2, and the size needs to be 36 inches long for both. And I call this a tube. So cut out 2, and the size you need to cut out for these 2 is 4 inches and 20 inches long. Next is the vinyl. So cut out 2 vinyl pieces, and the pieces here are 6 inches long and 4 inches. And the final one is you need to cut out 4 of the outer fabrics, and the sizes for these are 8.5 inches and 14 inches long. And as I mentioned, you can choose a different fabric. You don't have to use the same exact fabric as I have here, but you can choose a different fabric for the bottom of the drawstring bag, and you could choose a top one, and also for the tube you could also choose a different color fabric that you prefer. But this is what you need to do. As I mentioned, cut out all the materials, and then I'll show you the next step. I have here my first piece. This is the 8.5 by 14 inches. And I just want to make sure that it's nicely ironed and pressed. That's one thing I forgot to mention. Make sure that all your fabrics are all ironed and all the creases are removed. So I'm going to take this side that is printed and I'm going to face it down. And I am going to take this hot ruler. This hot ruler is very great. Because as you can see here, hopefully you can see it close here, it has different measurements, and this is really great when you want to fold the ends of the fabric to the size that you prefer without burning your finger, and to get an exact measurement. So I'm going to start now, and I'm going to be using here my wool mat so I can do my ironing. So here I go. So I just want to make sure I have 1/4 here, and I'm going to take my iron and press it Then I'm going to continue to keep moving down and to try to get the other side same length, 1/4 to fold. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the other end. Oops, it's a little more here that I took. Okay, let me lower it. Okay, gotcha. Here we go. And I'm going to continue to slide it down as I mentioned. There we go, 1/4. Now that I have both ends here folded 1/4, I'm gonna take these two corners and kind of sandwich them together. And by doing that, I'm gonna take my iron again. You probably will find a better way to do this, but for me this is much easier. Now I'm going to iron, give it a nice good press. So as you can see, it created a fold here in the middle, and then you have the ends in both sides 1/4. And there it is. It's nicely ironed and pressed, and the exact measurements that I need. And you're going to do the same thing for all 4 of them. As you can see, do the same thing. Just make sure that you finish folding it according to how I showed you, and then I'm going to show you the next step. For the next step, you need to take your 4 inches by 12 inch. That's what I keep calling the tube. This is the strap where we're going to be putting the rope through. So I'm going to take the printed side and I'm going to face it down, and I'm going to take here my hot ruler, and I'm going to take 1/4 inch seams here at the end, and I'm going to carefully just take my iron and iron it down, and do the same thing for the other side, 1/4. Making sure I have my 1/4. There we are. And then just carefully take the iron and iron it down. And then we're gonna do and then you're gonna do the same thing for the other piece. And we're gonna take it to the sewing machine, and we are going to just sew it down. Just take one flap here and just sew both sides, here, and the other two. Okay, I'm here by the sewing machine, and I'm going to start to sew, back stitch, and I'm going to continue to straight down, back stitch, okay. And as you can see, this is what it looks like when you stitch the flap onto the fabric. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side too. And also make sure that you sew the other tube like I have done here. Make sure that you sew both ends too. And once you once you finish sewing both, I'll show you the next step that is needed. Well, as you can see, both sides here have been sewn, and I'm going to just take my thread snipper and remove the extra thread. And now we are going to fold both of these ends here 1/4. And again, I just want to mention, you don't need to use a hot ruler. I use it because it helps me. But if you're good at eyeballing it, the measurement from 1/4, then that's great. going to do the other side here. Now that we have both ends here folded by 1/4, I'm going to take both sides here and I'm going to make sure that both of these ends match. I'm going to fold it like this, and then I'm going to iron it, put some steam, and as you can see, this is what's going to happen. We have a fold in the middle, just like here on this one here. We have a fold and we fold it, and once you finish doing that for both of the 4.5 inches and by 12 tube here or strap, then I'm going to show you how to assemble it together. Okay, now we're going to start with our vinyl piece. And make sure that you take 2 pieces of your fabric that's 8.5 by 14. And I am going to move this up a little bit, and I'm going to unfold one of the fabric pieces, and I'm going to line it up with my mat grill here. And now I'm going to take here my sewing double-sided tape here. I'm going to open it here, and I'm going to gently place it here on the edge here. Take my pair of scissors and then just trim off. So I basically just knead it from here. As you can see, just for this little fold that we created, we're going to be placing the sewing double-sided tape. And I'm going to just gently press, just to make sure that it sticks to the fabric. And now I'm going to gently remove this little piece of label. Okay, now I'm gently removing it. Okay. Putting it back to line it up to my grid here. Now that I have that done, I'm going to take my vinyl just to meet the edge with the edge here. I'm just eyeballing, making sure I line it up properly. As I mentioned, edge by edge here, as you can see. Now, I'm going to take another double-sided sewing tape here and put it up here against this little fold here, and then I'm just going to gently just press it. Take my pair of scissors, and I just got to be careful I don't cut off the vinyl. Okay, now do a nice little press. Let me just sniff off this thread. Okay. And let me find a little corner here so I can peel the label. Okay, I'm peeling the label. Okay. Now that that's done, I'm going to fold the fabric and gently align it. I'm just going to make sure that it matches from corner to corner. Okay. And I just want to make sure it matches. I just want to show you here. If I have to do some shifting, that's okay. I just want to make sure that both sides match. And the same thing here, that both sides match. While both sides match, I'm just going to flip it around just to make sure everything is in order. Okay. Everything is all nicely lined. Okay. Once I'm done with that, now I'm gonna move this down and take another piece here, and I'm gonna start to work on the other side of this vinyl. Again, I'm going to line it up here, take the tape here, and line it up. Make sure it's center in the middle. Take my pair of scissors, trim the excess, make sure it's lined, and I'm pressing it. And now let me just remove, let's see if I can do it. Let me try again. Okay, great. Now I'm able to remove the label. And as you can see now, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to align it to make sure that the bottom and top matches from corner here to corner. Okay. And I have to do a little shifting here. I didn't lay it flat like I was supposed to, especially here in the middle. Okay. Here we go. Align it gently in the middle here. Okay. Pressing it to make sure it's secure. And now I'm going to take another tape here and trim off the excess. Make sure that it's on that folded tab here. Pressing it to secure the tape onto the fabric. And then now let me try to remove the label here. Okay, here it goes. And then fold. Make sure that is lining up. Okay, yep, it's lining up here. Excellent. Everything is beautifully lined up. Just making sure everything is good. You don't have to use this sewing double tape, but I do it just to secure it because it helps me to secure vinyl, because vinyl tends to move and shift and I want to avoid it. So this is like my little helper here to make sure that things are secure. And I'm just putting a fabric clip here just to secure everything in its place. And I'm just flipping it over just to make sure everything is okay, everything is in order. Okay, let me just put this fabric clip properly. Okay, so and you're going to do the same thing to the second panel. As you can see, I already done this already. I forgot to put a fabric clip on this side here. Okay. So it looks very, very nice. So I'm just eyeballing it, making sure that both panel pieces do match. Okay. All right, they do match. They're even. They match. For any reason, if you find that the fabric pieces are not lining up and you have too much excess fabric sticking out, take your ruler, and if you do have a matte grid like I do, which is very helpful, if not, use the ruler and just take your rotary cutter and just cut any excess fabric that's sticking out. You want to make sure everything is lined in both sides of the panels. Okay, let me just put back the clips here. I just wanted to show you. Now that this is done, I'm going to show you the other step now. These two tubes, as I call them, these, what size are these? I forgot. 4.5 inches by 12 inches. I'm here losing my thought here. So we're going to take these two tubes, can't even speak today. We're going to take these two tubes that we created, as you can see. I'm going to take one of them, and I'm going to make sure that the opening, as you see here, is lining up on top. Let me just make sure that is lined up. The panels line up to my mat grid here. And I'm going to line it up because I want to make sure that it's even. And how can I find out if it's even again? Use the ruler. The ruler is very helpful. And the ruler will tell me the measurements that I have here. Okay. Let's flip this this way. So it's okay, it's great. So I'm just gonna take some fabric clips and I'm going to clip the pieces here together. As you can see, it's nicely clipped. And now, but just to make sure that, like I said, the opening is on top and the fold is facing the bottom. Let me put this panel down. And now let me take the other panel. Here is a second panel. I'm just lining it up against my grid over here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the other tube that we created. Make sure that the opening is facing here on top and the folded on the bottom. I'm eyeballing it, but I'm just going to make sure, taking my ruler, that both sides is even. Okay. And then I'm going to flip it over here. Okay, so both sides are even. And I'm going to take my fabric clip to clip and make sure that it's even. Now we've done that part. The next step is we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and most important thing is we are going to sew. Let me just remove here. We're going to sew here on top, across here, and then we're going to sew right over here. We're going to top stitch here and top stitch here, and the same thing will go for the next panel. Do the same thing. We're going to sew here on top and sew here, and then we're going to go here and sew here the bottom one. So let's take it to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch those areas. Okay, I'm going to start to sew, and I'm going to back stitch just a couple of times and continue to sew. And back stitch to secure the tube to the fabric. I'm just going to snip this off, the extra thread. As you can see, I attached the tube to the fabric. Now the next step is I'm going to show you. Let me flip this panel. Just get this out of the way. Now I'm going to sew here. Back stitch. And I have one last stitch here for this panel. Oops. I should have flipped it the other way. Makes it easier for me. Let me just put all these threads to the side and line up the foot presser here, and again start back stitch and continue sewing. Back stitch. Okay, now you're gonna do the same thing to the other panel. Up, down, and also we finish sewing both of these areas here, and the same thing with the other panel. Tube attached to the fabric, and both areas here are stitched together. So now I'm going to take both of these tubes. Well, before I do that, let me just first, I just realized, let me first sniff off the extra threads that are sticking out here. Let me get them out of the way first. Oops. Now that I got that out of the way, we're going to take the tubes and we're going to face them together. And we're going to take our fabric clips. And the most important thing is we want to make sure that these sides are aligned and facing each other well, because when you start sewing, you're going to see the unevenness of the fabric here. I'm going to face this side here and do the same thing. So I'm just starting over here first. Okay, making sure that's all okay. And then this is going to be the top here, and this is the bottom. If you see that in the side they're a little bit off, that's okay. You could trim them down if you like. Okay. Let me start here and here. So as you can see, let me just remove this here. Okay, so now they're both facing each other, and now the next step is to start to sew. So we're going to sew from here, from the top all the way to the bottom, going across and back up to the top, and make sure that this area here you do not sew. Just sew here, here, and here. So the seam allowance is going to be 1/2 inch. And we're going to back stitch. Coming here to the bottom, I'm going to tilt the fabric, okay, and I'm going to continue. Yeah, I have my cat here distracting me. I'm coming here to this end, and I'm going to tilt it, and I'm going to continue to sew. Yeah, because I made a mistake. I started at the wrong side, and then I got distracted by my cat here. But continue sewing, as you can see what I'm doing here. And I am going to back stitch, and we're done. We finished sewing all 3 sides of both of these panels together. I just want to show you a close-up look. My Juki sewing machine doesn't give me the options to do a zigzag. But if your sewing machine has a zigzag option, please use it. I had to use the straight stitch lines that you see. I added 2 additional. Is to prevent the fabric from fraying. And just to remind you, only do the zigzag and or the straight lines that you prefer only on the fabric area only. Okay, so now that we have finished this area, you can cut a little template. You can use cardstock, or you can use any kind of paper, and this is 1 inch by 1 inch. Let me get my marker over here, my erasable pen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it against the stitch. So the template against the bottom stitch and the side stitch, and I am going to use this pen to make my line of 1 inch, and I'm going to take this template and do the same thing to this side, making sure the template is aligned to the stitch from the top and the side only, and do the mark. Once that is done, take your pair of scissors. Make sure you use your pair of scissors. Don't use a rotary, because a rotary you can really overshoot stuff. So I am gonna cut off where I make the pattern, the little, not the pattern, but the markings. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut the square off. And I'm going to just flip it this side so I can cut it properly. A little more sniffed here. Okay. So now I have both corners here cut off. And now, the next step is to put my hand through here, and I am going to create a box corner. So I'm going to make sure that the seams are aligned, as you can see here. And I'm going to take my fabric clip and put it here in the middle, just to secure it. And then flip and do the same thing to the other side. Just open up. Make sure the seams are aligned. And make sure this way. Okay. Match. Okay. Everything matches, so I'm going to use my fabric clip here now again. Now that I have both of these box corners made, I'm going to take my grid over here. Excuse me. Work with this. Alright, okay. So I'm using my grid as my guideline. And then I'm going to use my ruler and my erasable marker to create a 1/2 inch mark okay. Do the same thing to the other side here. Okay, making sure everything looks ooh, okay. Alright. Okay. And take my ruler, I have here 1/2 inch, and to mark it 1/2 inch. And since I marked it 1/2 inch, we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and then we are going to stitch across. If you're able to, you could use your zigzag option that you have on your sewing machine to seal this end here and prevent it from fraying. So let's go to the sewing machine. Yeah, I removed the fabric clips so I can start to sew. As you can see, I'm going to use the markings that I made to help me stitch. Back stitch. And back stitch. And since I do not have a zigzag option, I'm just going to sew a second straight line here. Okay, now I'm done. So you do the same thing to the other corner of this panel. Now that we have both corners sewn, I'm going to turn this vinyl inside out. Great. Okay, this is what it looks like. It's really nice. Turn it the other way. For any reason, if your vinyl gets really wrinkled when you're turning it inside out, I will usually, let me just move this to the side. I will take my mat here and I will just iron the mat very well. And then I'll just gently just take the vinyl and rub against it here, and that will help remove some of the wrinkles that you have on your vinyl from flipping it inside out. So this is a good tip to know. And if it's still wrinkled, again, just put the iron on the mat, iron, steam it, and then just gently kind of rub the vinyl onto the mat. Onto our next step. Okay, now we're at the final end. I'm gonna open up the tubes here, this is where we're going to be inserting the rope. So here's my rope, one of them 36 inches long, and I'm going to take my bobbin here, and I'm going to move this here to kind of tighten it up, and it's like a little needle. So I'm going to insert it on this tube here, and as I'm inserting it, I am going to continue to move it through, and here we go. Now, since I got it through the first one, now let me just flip this over to the other side. Okay, so we finished putting it through this tube. Now we're going to pass it through this other tube. Here it comes. Okay, now I'm going to just open up the bobbin. And here at the end, I am going to create a knot. Take this one. And, okay. And tighten it a little bit. Okay. That size done. Now I'm going to take the other 36-inch rope. And again, I'm going to put my bobbin on the rope. And this comes really handy. So now we are going to put it through this side here now, the opposite side. Put it through. And then we're going to go to the second tube here, and I prefer to just put this through on top of the first rope. Let me just turn this the other way so it makes it easier for me to put it through. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to put it through. All right, let me take these two ends, make a knot. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's a knot. It's completed. Oops. Okay. So now that it's completed, now you can just tighten it a little bit. And there you go. So your bag is complete. There we go. And you can put whatever you want in here to store, whether it's baby items, toiletry items that you can use to store anything that you feel is needed. So now we have finished making our drawstring vinyl cute little bag here. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a clear vinyl drawstring bag. This is a cute project, as I mentioned, and also you can make this project in different sizes, and these are great gifts for family and friends, and also you could make a little extra money by selling them on Etsy. And if you really like this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and also if you're not a subscriber, click on the red button to subscribe. And also if you click on the bell, by clicking on the bell, YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new video. So till next time, have a good day.